Welcome to Crappie Hippies at the Bench, an instructional video series on how to tie your own jigs, flies, and create your own fish-catching baits. Brought to you by Glasswater Angling for a better outdoors, makers of lead-free fishing tackle, inventors of Angle King, the Crappie Doodler, and home to hand-tied jester jigs, Ring King paddle tail grubs, lead-free jig heads, and more. Check us out at glasswaterangling.com. And now here's Crappie Hippie at the bench. Hey everybody, it's Crappie Hippie here, your tree-hugging redneck from eastern Kansas, and I am finally back at the bench. Now, I'm going to catch us up on where I've been and what I've been doing. If you're like, Crappie Hippie, that sounds okay, but I want to get right to the Jig Hacks. Well, I have a couple of Jig Hacks down the pipe here. Skip on down to that stuff, watch that stuff. That's why you're here. That's quite all right. But if you're wondering where I've been, what I've been up to, and why I couldn't keep to that proposed schedule of putting out a video every month, I'm here to beg your indulgence and tell you what's been going on. So if you're interested, hang in there with me. Yeah, I could not keep up with the schedule of putting out a video a month. I still want to get you 12 videos this year. But we got really busy this spring, which is great news for Glasswater. Have a lot of projects going on. One in particular I want to talk about right now. Guess what? I launched my own podcast. As some of you know, I've been a correspondent with the Fish Nerds podcast for quite some time, since around 2018, somewhere in there, submitting a lot of stories and articles and interviews to that podcast. Really enjoy working with those folks. And on that podcast, I met a gentleman named Tim Beat, and he's an essay writer, an outdoor writer from the Great Lakes region over there in Ohio. And he is a wonderful person and a bright guy and a lot of fun to work with. And we sort of hit it off. And I'd had this idea to put on Fish Nerds, a concept about doing something with vintage lures, lure history, something like that. And Tim thought that was a great idea because he's a bit of a picker. He collects, buys, sells, trades lures, is really into lures of all kinds. And so we kind of got together and we created some segments for the show and called them Lure Love. And we started out with lure history, but we quickly expanded into lure news, new lures, lure reviews, things like that. And we realized the topic was so vast and so fun that we should just go ahead and spin off into our own podcast. So this August, Tim Tacklebox Beat and the Crappie Hippie started the podcast Lure Love, brought to you by Glasswater Angling. Now, how exciting is that? So we have lurelove.com where you can listen to the podcast there. And you can listen to it on Apple or a Stitcher or iHeart or wherever the heck you want to listen to it. It's no big deal. We all like our apps, especially when we're out driving around and doing around with our cell phone, where all we have is our cell phone. But if you want to get on the website, there's a lot of fun things there. One of my favorite things that Tim put on the website is the little microphone. So if you're watching an episode, if you're listening to an episode and you have a suggestion or a comment or a question, you can just hit that little microphone and leave us some sort of voicemail, some sort of voice memo, and let us know what you need. There's other fun things there as well, but we've got our first 2 episodes on the website. We also on the website have, I put 2, 3, 4 segments up that we had done for Fish Nerds before we broke away. And he has some of his own material on there and so forth. So check out lurelove.com. Please check out the podcast if you're into lures, antique lures, new lures, everything, just geeking on lures like Tim and I do. Come on and join us. It's a lot of fun. So that was our project so far. We're coming out with that every other Wednesday. And we're going to have apparel and stuff, and we're going to sell that through the Glasswater site. Check in every now and then. All I'm waiting for is the samples, and then I'm going to go ahead and post everything, but I've got to get the samples and make sure that the shirts came out the way I want to, because I don't want to do all the work of putting up the post and then get the samples and have to take it down. Alrighty, so Lure Love, sponsored by Glasswater Angling. Please check us out. Okay, now for some Glasswater news. We sold a lot of tackle this spring. Lure companies do anywhere from 50 to 80% of their business between January and July. That's when the fishers are stocking up, sitting down with the wintertime blues, going over what they didn't get for Christmas and so on, and filling those tackle boxes and getting everything ready for spring. So you sell a lot of tackle, and we were no exception. I did some work for the Minnesota Pollution Control Board. They wanted some lead-free hand-tied jigs for their lead-free tackle kits that they give out to kids doing their fishing programs over the summer. Now, what is the Minnesota Pollution Control Board? Well, they obviously monitor and help take care of pollution, and they have a segment of that organization that is out to push the lead-free fishing agenda through education and encouragement. That's the way they're going to go about it, long-term. Educate the youth, let the fishing population grow into this idea that we can go lead-free. Nothing, we can have lead-free, we can help the loons, we can help the swans, we can help all the other animals that live around these aquatic environments not get poisoned by lead tackle. And Minnesota's taking that route. And Minnesota, of course, is one of our great fishing states. Fish, because there's places to fish all over that place. Plus, you're right there by Canada and Wisconsin and the Great Lakes and everything else. It's incredible. A lot of fishing, but they are really, really pushing forward with the lead-free fishing agenda, and we're so happy to have gotten to cooperate with the Minnesota Pollution Control Board and tie them up 300 32nd-ounce jigs to go into their jig kits. So it was 300 jigs. Apparently Glasswater is the only one out there, or one of the few places out there, that's offering a hand-tied, lead-free hair jig or marabou jig. When I was a kid, hair jigs were made out of bucktail, squirrel tail, calf tail, and then we had marabou jigs. But now the young people, and my chief field tester Novell says, hey, if it's not a plastic jig, it's a hair jig. It's like, good deal. All right, cleared up for me. So we did 300 for them. And then we had the Hackensack Children's Tournament, Hackensack, Minnesota Children's Tournament, contact us in May. The Minnesota Pollution Control Board got with us in March. Anyway, Hackensack got with us in May, and those folks wanted to take their tournament, the fishing contest, their little tournament, lead-free. And they ordered 600 jigs, 232nd, 216th ounce, 208th ounce. So it was a real challenge for me to get these big orders of jigs. And the great thing is I learned some hacks, and that's what we're going to talk over today. Durability hacks, hacks on how to do things quickly, and so on. But sticking with the story to the end, I ended up getting to tie anything I wanted, because he didn't pick patterns or anything. He just said, I want 83 dozen jigs and get them to me as quickly as you can. And they put them in their little prize kits and their little tackle boxes and their little individual prizes and for their tackle exchanges and so on and so forth. So they would have a hand-tied hair jig, because it's, there's really few lures more effective than a simple hand-tied hair jig. And you guys know that, we know that. That's why we're here. We love to play with our jigs. We love to do these things and tie these jigs and tie them all kinds of ways. And it was great to get contacted by these folks and get to make so many jigs and to get involved in these fine programs that they're putting forward here in Minnesota. Now, one of the things that really helped me out was that my friend Jeff Donaldson, who is the Flatland fly fisher, but he's also the Fish Nerd librarian. So he's another correspondent that I met on Fish Nerds, but he happens to live in Overland Park, which is a suburb of Kansas City that's only about 30 miles, whatever, away from me. And so he and I, we went around this spring white bass fishing in the rivers and had a ball, and he's a big fly fisher, so he was showing me all kinds of things about those techniques and how I could apply them to my spin fishing and so on. And in the mix, he said, hey, over the wintertime, I thought it was a Christmas present or what it was, but he treated himself to a new Regal vise. Now, Regal vices are the top of the line vices. Kim Burnett at Crappie Stopper Jigs and Flies has one. They're really, really nice. But he said, hey, I'll trade you my old Peak vise for some jig heads, some lead-free jig heads. And so finally, guys, look at it right here. This is it. It's a Peak vise, and I finally have a vise that rotates. After 40-some years of tying with a D.H. Thompson vise, which is a perfectly good vise, I'm moving up in the game, and it came just in time to tie all these jigs. Now, look, I don't want you feeling down about the vise you have. Like I said in my other videos, a nice, simple vise that gets you going is just as good as anything. But when I started to tie for money and so on, it's real nice to make, I have to be more concerned about the way the jig looks. we're always concerned about how they look. But when we're fishing just for ourselves, we're just tying for ourselves, we know fish aren't that fussy. So if that back stripe's just, a little heavier on one side than the other, or if the flashabou's up a little higher on the other side and so on, it's not going to freak us out. It's not going to bother the fish. It's not anything, right? But when you're tying for other people, I want my gesture jigs to be as precise as possible. So I really felt blessed to be able to get this so I can look at the different sides of the jig before I finish it up. And it just increased my speed and increased my ability to tie really, really good jigs really quickly. So it's exciting. Thank you, Jeff. After all these years, I'm moving up. And of course, Dream. These cost about $160. Okay? I wouldn't have it if I couldn't have traded for it. So these circumstances came together for me. But hopefully they will for you. Hopefully you'll win a bunch of money, or hopefully you'll do something really nice for somebody and they'll say, hey, here's an opportunity for you. Here's a new vise for you. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I always wish blessings on the people I like, and that includes y'all. And it sure rained down on me in terms of this vise. So that's kind of what's been going on. And in addition to tying for Hack and Sack and for the Minnesota Pollution Control Board, I also had another 40-some dozen that people ordered from Glasswater. So I was tying a dozen here, 2 dozen there, half dozen there. A lot of people going pan fishing, crappie fishing, so on, and wanting to do it lead-free, and I was excited about that. So I had to tie another 40-some dozen in addition to what I'd done for those 2 aforementioned groups. Thank you if it was some of y'all off this channel here that ordered, but that left me tying over 1,200 jigs so far this year, and that's a lot. That's more than I've ever tied in a year, and it was a good learning experience for me. And I know I'm getting some of y'all buying jig heads from me, because I've sold more jig heads this year than ever before, and tons of jig heads going out for people wanting to tie and learn to tie and tie lead free. And if you're one of those folks that ordered some jig heads from Glasswater, thank you, and keep looking, because I keep putting up different jigs, different jig hooks, and so on, because people write me and they say, hey, Crappie Hippie, or they say, hey, Johnny, because my name is John King. They say, hey, John, what can we do here? I want a 16th ounce jig with a number 8 hook, because he wants to fish deep in the summertime for bluegill or deep in the wintertime for bluegill, and he wants that bigger head, but he still wants to have that smaller hook. I checked out with my do-it mold, see if I could do it. If I can do it, I'm going to do it. So I've got some new hook sizes. I've got some little number 10 hook size jigs on there, all kinds of stuff. So if you can tie smaller, you can tie bigger. I've got the 1/4 ounces on there. I've got some 1/8 ounce with some big old 2-aught hooks. So I'm letting those, you smallmouth guys, I hear your needs. You said I want some 1-aught, I want some 2-aught. All I got to do is check in my do-it mold. If the do-it will take the hook, then I'll mold you up the size jig with the size hook that you want. So thank you all for the jig orders. Thank you all for the jig head orders. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for sticking with. Thank you all who've subscribed based on the older videos without needing a new video. Thank you. It's great to be back. All right, let's get on with some hacks. What did I learn having to tie all these jigs this year, having to get with it? I learned a few things, and of course I'm always sending stuff out to field testers and I get reports back, and so we're going to tie a jig here. We're going to talk about what I've learned, what I kind of want to pass on to you. And no, I've been tying jigs for 40-some years and don't think I know everything, because I don't. One of the best things about getting older is that you soon wise up and realize that you don't know much of anything. And that's very liberating. But I will share what I do know and what I have learned with you, and happy to do so. So here I go. I'm going to put this in here in my vise. Now I feel that that's going to need, so all I do to tighten this is I just turn this nut just a tiny amount, and that'll tighten that up real nice. I think I'll stay in there. And we're going to start off here. I've got a 1/8 ounce lead-free bismuth alloy jig head with pearl, and I've already joked about how I'm a pearl man, and my field tester Todd Birdie Birdsell, he likes white or fluorescent white. He likes it really white and bright. And let me get my trash can over here. Okay, so we're all properly prepared, except I can't see nothing, right? Get these out of the way. Don't need those, and let's get these on. All right, I'm going to show you these 3 tactics while we tie one of my favorite patterns, which I call yellow pearl. And one of the first things we're going to do is talk about marabou. And one of the things I learned, I'm going to make our thread bed here, and I'm going to come down here and just kind of run a, now right there, run a little hitch in there to hold that. And then I'm going to get back to the middle, so like we've been doing. Now, when you tie, you know, my first order for the Minnesota Pollution Control Board was for 32nd ounce jigs. So here's a nice big piece of what's called blood quill. It's just starting to move from blood quill to being what would be an ordinary 3 or 4 inch plume. But when you tie, you know, we strip down one side, or maybe we strip one side and then the other. And we know that for a 32nd ounce jig, we're only going to be using material of about that length, because we're looking at a jig that's going to end up between an inch and a half long, right? So we can't agonize over that. I know it feels wasteful to waste all this back hair or to not use all this back hair, but you know, it's just the way things are. And we're going to do a thing on hackle and how to pick out hackle and how to use hackle. But right now I've been advising people to buy the, you know, the strong blood ounces, because this is select hackle. Blood quill, blood ounces. Well, did I just say blood ounces? I'm sorry. What are blood ounces? I don't want to know. Nice ounces of blood quill. These are selected feathers, so they're a little more expensive, because it's the difference between having someone take a bunch of turkey feathers and sort them all out and having another person just, you know, stick them in a bag no matter what they are, in terms of marabou. And that's why this product costs about, Nimrod's has one of the best prices with the best quality, $10 an ounce. You can also go to the feather place, and they'll send you little packages. They have them for $2 a package in the 1/4 ounce, which makes it about $8 an ounce. But Nimrod's going to give you a little better deal in terms of weight and quality, although the feather place is perfectly acceptable, and I use them too. Especially since Nimrod is having a hard time getting supplied. A lot of people are having a hard time getting supplied, and I don't want to get into a whole bunch of stuff about the pandemic, but hey, let's chill, and let's be patient, and let's be empathetic. Businesses of all kinds are struggling, because this is a worldwide thing, and a lot of people have died, and there's a lot of people that can't go back to work, and a lot of people have had their lives permanently changed, and things are disrupted, okay? But that's okay, because it's forcing us to be more inventive, and it's forcing us to look around. It's forcing us to do things a little different. It's forcing us back on our own internal genius, our own creativity, and we can manage this stuff. We can do this stuff. So don't be hard on my friend DJ Kelly over at Nimrod's, because he doesn't have everything. He still has a lot of stuff over there. He may not have all the colors and stuff you want, but you know, he's not going to just buy a bunch of junk and just to have it. He's going to wait to get the feathers that he likes, the feathers that he wants, the feathers he knows you're going to like. But in the meantime, here in another video, I'll show you how to hunt down some other things. But right now, we're going to talk about, okay, so I got my nice blood quill. I'm pulling off a blood quill, and I want to tie a yellow pearl. So now, you know, so for a yellow pearl, we need some nice fluorescent yellow. And we'll pull that off of there. And there's a nice blood quill. Nice long feathers. And now, to get to the meat of the matter, all I do is I don't want this piece with this piece of quill in it, right? We know we want to avoid that. That's why we strip off the quill. Or we can just take this, we bend it down flat against that, so we make a circle, little oval. We brush all this forward, and now there's all the usable marabou. Sorry about that. There's all the usable marabou for any kind of jig, whatever length you're going to tie. So if I'm coming in, you know, on a 32nd, I'm going to choke it up a lot. And if I'm coming in on this nice 1/8 ounce, I'm going to cut this whole thing. But you can see it gives you a nice taper. But you're getting, you know, you're saying, what all this stuff? Well, you're going to throw that away anyway. You don't need all that length. There's just length, you know, that's just lost length, whichever way you do it. Strip and stack, or bend and cut. But see, if you are out there, and let's say your friend Stephanie calls you on the phone, and she's like, hey, I'll bring the lunch, I'll pay for the gas. Me and Yawin, we want to go crappie fishing, and we want you to come with us, and we want you to tie up a dozen of those great jigs. And you're like, oh man, I got to tie a dozen jigs tonight, and I need to do it quick because I have other things to do, and I want to be ready for tomorrow. Well, I'm going to show you how. This is how I built up speed tying all those jigs. was learning that hack right there. And so I come in loose, now I come in tight, and I'm gonna go on down. Okay, and I don't want to tie my tail too long. I want the tail to be no longer than the overall, body of the jig. That's pretty good. I do tie a little long for some people. It's entirely up to you. And then I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to go ahead and just, even though we've got the flat wax thread, even though we're hanging here with the weight to hold it, that's one of the things that a lot of guys do is they knot as they go along. Now, there's two ways to do that, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's go ahead and finish this concept. So now I come in with my bottom color, okay, darker color on top. Remember, we're building the jig up upside down. It's going to go through the water like that. So I'm looking at that. It looks good, pretty good, nice and even. And so, voila, I just come in. All right, I'm taking this quill, taking this top that I don't want, this part right here in the middle. Can't use any of this. So we're gonna take this over like that, okay? And now I'm gonna brush all this forward. There's all the usable marabou on that plume. I'm gonna twist it, I'm gonna get it all bunched. Come over here to my Charlie Brown trash can. I'll put it in there, okay? Now, say I got way too much, it's too long. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. I want it about right there. So I'm gonna cut off a little more. And I'm putting a lot of boo on this jig. Okay, so I'm going to kind of look. I'm going to try to get it even. Okay, I'll sweep it in here, put it on there, and then 1, 2, loose. Make sure it's distributed well. Got it looking pretty good all the way around. Tightened straight down. And then, and yeah, a lot of guys, you can't, you don't want to leave a ton of feather in here, but you want enough feather bite to hold that thread. And, I'm really putting the pressure on this 210 denier thread. I like to use a nice thick thread. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to make a knot, just a hitch knot, to hold it in place. Okay, and now if I feel like I have too much junk, coming off this, I can kind of tame it down a little bit. Now, let's go with, let's make this fun. Let's either take Flashaboo, okay, but I'm almost out of chartreuse Flashaboo. Taking the Flashaboo for a yellow pearl chartreuse, or we can take this nice, really light, beautiful chartreuse crystal flash. Now, when you use crystal flash, especially if it's a new bunch, you don't want to just yank it out of there because it'll twist, and it twists, it makes it almost useless. So we're going to grab one strand, and we're going to pull real slow. Okay, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me, stay with me. I don't want it to twist. Okay. And out it comes. Okay, and then I take that. Now, I tie crystal flash and Flashaboo. I think 1 strand is very effective. I think that 4 strands or 3 strands is effective. It's how much flash do you want running through your jig. But we don't need that whole strand. We're going to take half and lay that down. I'm going to take this half, even it up. Okay. All right. And then we're going to have about a 4-inch piece for a 2-inch jig, so that's enough for each side. So I'm going to take this. Okay. I'm going to lay that down. And then what I do, now, if we're tying fast and your customer hasn't ordered all these fancy things, then don't do it. And then we're going to bring this thread back in here. And we're not going to be at the middle. We're going to be 3/4 of the way down. And then we're going to lay this right on top. Right on top. Okay? And you're going to tie this right in the middle. And then you're going to pull down. And you're going to get it in position. And then you're going to fold this over. And you're going to get it in position. Okay, and now I can look at kind of what it's doing. Now with your DH, you're going to have to pull it out of the vise or what have you, and to leave that on there. Okay, so now we got that. Okay, so now we got our little flash shot going through there. Beautiful, just beautiful. And we're going to come on and finish her off with our chenille. And this is the one key: organization. You got a lot of jigs to tie, and Stephanie and Yawin want you to tie a bunch of yellow pearl up. Then get your 2 colors, get your white, get your yellow, get your flash or whatever accent, get your boo, get your scissors, get everything together, and you can tie rapidly because you're organized. All right, so we're going to come in here now. Now here's the next hack that I want to show you. Now you know I like to tie with number 2 chenille because I love chenille, because I'm a complete geek and I love different colors. But you know there's also fine chenille, size 0, for your little trout flies and your little panfish and so on. And if you tie a lot of 32nd ounce jigs and so on. Or I mean jigs smaller than 32nd ounce. I think number 2 is the perfect size for 32nd, 16th, and 8th. But on 16th and 8th, I like a double body, a little fatter body. Now, if you're tying tons and tons of 1/8 ounce jigs and you've got the money, you can move into a number 4 chenille and just go tie down here and just go forward. But I love so many colors. I don't have all the colors in number 2 I want. If I have to buy all the colors in 0 and 4, not only am I going to go broke, but I'm going to have to buy a new house to put all that stuff. All right, so I just stick with the one size and make it kind of work for everything. But this spring I was mortified. I sent a bunch of jigs off to one of my great testers, Bass Fishing NC, a great guy, Dwayne the Fish Brain. He's out of North Carolina. He loves bass fishing, loves crappie fishing. Great fisher. Follow him on Instagram, Bass Fishing NC. But he sent me a picture of a big slab crappie he'd caught on one of the jigs, but the chenille was falling off the back, and I've warned you guys, and obviously I had a mental lapse when I tied that jig, and I didn't put enough tension on the chenille. But also I said, hey, it's high time to make sure. And he said, oh, I'd caught a dozen on there, it's no big deal. But he's a nice guy. But I was mortified. I'm not having, I want my jigs to hold up for 20, 30, 50, 100 fish if possible. So we're going to come in super tight, super tight, super tight, super tight. And you can see, instead of leaving the thread up here, I've moved it back here. And I come down, and I come down like that, and I stop. Now, I'm going to hitch it here. I'm going to giddy up, hitch it here. Okay? And now, I'm coming in. Okay? And I'm going to run a hitch over the top of that. A little wrap. And then I'm going to come down here. But don't worry, all that's going to get hidden away. I'm going to pull hard. Look at that jig head dip down. Pulling hard, pulling hard, pulling hard. Making sure. Okay, you got to concentrate no matter how fast you're going. Oh, I accidentally broke it, but that's okay. I got it. I don't know why this flow yellow does that. I'm always breaking it before I get done. Anyway, we're going to put that, and then we're going to get that down, and I'm going to check it on this side. Okay, that's not the prettiest finish I've ever put on a jig, but then again, you know what? This is just for me, and I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, now, get that down in there. Now, I've been showing you, okay, so now we've got the second hack, number 2. Get yourself a little bit of reinforcement back here. Run a hitch around it, get it secure, run the thread around it a couple times, secure it, one or two wraps around it, secure it that way, and then hide everything when you wrap forward. And that should stay there. That's about as much durability as I can freaking stand, okay? Now, I've been showing you to come this way with your fingers and do what's called a half hitch and go round and round and round. And that's a whip called a hitch finish. That's a hitch knot. And it's an okay knot. It's a good knot. It's a perfectly valid knot. Obviously I've been using it a long time and been perfectly happy. And we go ahead and put our Sally Hansen's or other adhesive on there to harden the wraps and to keep it from unwrapping. It's fine. But the thing about the hitch knot is not very efficient. Okay, it's not about strength so much. But when you hitch knot, you're basically just wrapping around the main line over and over, and you pull it. And of course, if you do it, this one down here, is also a hitch knot, and that's fine. But what I've learned is instead of putting your fingers this way and going this way, if you want to make a true whip finish knot, like small jaw and some of the guys do with the tool, okay, that kind of knot, what the fly guys swear by, a whip finish knot, you got to take your fingers and you got to hit it this way and come like this, and then see I'm keeping hold of my bobbin, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see how that draws in. Then I'm going to pull with my bobbin back. And then I'm going to work that knot down in there, and I can feel it just slip clear down in there. Snap. I'm done. Okay? 5 turns. I put a little Sally's on there. Use that whip finish. And I'm going to put a video link in the notes down below to a video by Orvis that shows it being constructed on a fly hook. And you'll see how doing a whip finish and moving your fingers onto the thing like this forward and doing what it did is it causes the wraps to wrap over the main line again and again and again. And so when you pull it tight, it all scrunches together and everything, the main line is trapped under all those 5 wraps that you put over the top. Now, a lot of times I also turn it over, come in and put 2 or 3 more as insurance, but don't get obsessive and just start piling knots in here. It's not necessary. Just get it together, do your knot, 1. Some guys only do 3, and they're perfectly happy. 5 is what Kim likes, so that's what I like. Actually, then I go ahead and do a couple of insurance over here. And then if I'm nervous, I'll put glue. But if you do your whip finish correctly, you don't have to glue it. But, go ahead because if you want, because hey, why not? The harder, the stronger, everything you make the wraps, the happier you're going to be. So there you go. Now you're ready. You've got your materials. You've got your hack on how to get the feather off the quill quickly. You've got your hack on how to make sure that this pesky double wrapped body doesn't go sliding off the back here on you. And you've got a new and better knot for tying it off in the end. So Stephanie and Yawin and you can all go out and slay crappies with that beautiful yellow pearl jig. And why not? Alrighty, this has been Crappie Hippie, your tree-hugging redneck from eastern Kansas with a few hacks for you. Some new things I've learned. If you have any questions, please hit me up in the comments. I've got the Lure Love link. I've got all the links, all the stuff. I've got videos coming up. We're going to talk about suppliers. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff, how to select marabou. I've got all kinds of things. And then we'll get back to just doing some jig ties too. I got some great interaction with customers. We've got the squirmy pattern this guy showed me. I got a double mop pattern that another guy showed me. So Dave and John, I hear you. We're going to get videos with your patterns in them. Love it, guys. Thank you so much. We're going to cover that here soon, very soon. But take that with a grain because I've got a lot of irons in the fire. Anyway, bless you all for coming and watching today, and best wishes for lots of fishes. This is Crappie Hippie, your tree-hugging redneck from eastern Kansas, saying tight lines and Valentine's. Peace out.